Imagine lying in a hospital bed. You feel, well, perfectly fine.
Right.
The nurse checking your chart thinks you look fine. The monitors are humming along with a reassuring rhythm.
This is a totally normal scene.
Exactly. But a server down the hall, silently crunching numbers, has just predicted that in exactly 4 hours, your heart is going to stop.
Wow.
And because of that completely invisible, silent prediction, the medical team intervenes. Your heart never stops. You walk out of the hospital a few days later, just totally oblivious to the mathematical miracle that just saved your life.
It's wild to think about.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive, especially to you, the learner. Whether you're prepping for a massive presentation or trying to catch up on where the tech world is heading, or, you're just insanely curious about the world we are building, you are in the exact right place.
Glad you're here with us.
Today, our mission is to unpack a highly specific AI News Digest dated May 17, 2026. The goal is to cut through the tech jargon and look at how artificial intelligence has completely moved out of the sterile lab environment.
Right, it's out in the wild now.
Yeah, and it stepped directly into the most critical life or death areas of our daily lives.
Correct.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the sheer velocity of this evolution, from a novelty text generator to a system making split-second biological predictions, it's just staggering.
It is. And, the overarching theme jumping out of these recent developments is unprecedented synthesis.
Synthesis, yeah.
We are looking at systems that possess an entirely new ability to ingest just massive, incomprehensible amounts of real-world data and turn it into instant predictive action.
It's like it's happening on the blink of an eye.
Exactly. It's a progression that starts with the invisible data streams inside our own bodies, and then it extends all the way out to the literal physical traffic on our city streets.
It's everywhere.
We are handing over the most critical functions of human society to automated systems, and it's happening in plain sight.
Well, let's explore that biological side first. The developments in the healthcare sector from these sources are, frankly, fundamentally changing the definition of a hospital room. We're looking at researchers who have deployed AI systems capable of predicting patient deterioration with an accuracy rate that human observation simply cannot match.
Which requires looking at patient care through an entirely different lens. I mean, a human nurse or doctor is incredibly skilled, right? But they are limited by their senses and their shifts.
Right, they have to sleep eventually.
Exactly. They observe a patient periodically, checking for visible signs of distress or maybe reviewing a handful of recent lab results. But this AI system operates on a totally different plane.
It's always on.
Always. It is continuously, simultaneously analyzing vast oceans of patient data. Every fluctuation in blood pressure, every fractional change in oxygen saturation.
Just constant monitoring.
Yeah, and it takes the results of complex blood panels and cross-references all of it against the patient's entire historical medical record in real time.
So it's identifying the storm before the first drop of rain even falls.
That's a great way to put it.
Because normally, a condition like sepsis, right, it's spotted when a patient spikes a fever.
Right, the symptom appears.
But by then, it's a 5-alarm fire. The body's already in crisis. This AI is noticing that your white blood cell count ticked up 2% yesterday, and your blood pressure dipped momentarily when you sat up an hour ago.
Which a human would miss entirely.
Right. To a human, those are just unrelated blips. But to the AI, it is the exact undeniable fingerprint of an infection that won't actually show a real symptom for another 6 hours.
It sees the math behind the biology.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. Think of it like a high-frequency trading algorithm on Wall Street.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Right. But instead of looking for microscopic fluctuations in international stock prices to execute a trade and make a quick buck, it's looking for micro-fluctuations in your blood chemistry to save your life.
What's fascinating here is the fundamental shift in the entire philosophy of medicine.
How so?
Well, for centuries, the entire global medical establishment has been largely reactive. A symptom appears, a patient reports pain, and a protocol is triggered to treat it.
You wait for it to break before you fix it.
Exactly. By definition, you are always playing catch-up with the disease. The mechanisms described in these recent breakthroughs flip that dynamic entirely.
It's proactive now.
Yes. It is a transition from reactive medicine to proactive medicine. The machine bridges the gap between massive data sets and individual human care by seeing the mathematical pattern of deterioration long before the biological symptom ever manifests.
Which naturally takes a huge burden off the human healthcare providers. I mean, the medical staff isn't running from room to room putting out fires. They're calmly administering preventative measures based on these early warnings.
It changes the whole vibe of a hospital.
Seriously. But the application of this data synthesis goes even further than emergency prediction, according to the sources. It's also completely rewriting how we approach long-term illness.
Right, shifting away from general protocols.
Yeah, moving into this era of hyper-personalized medicine.
Because traditional medicine relies heavily on the law of averages. Clinical trials dictate that a drug is approved because it effectively treats a condition for the majority of people in a test group.
So a standardized protocol gets established for everyone.
Right, but a patient is not a statistical average. A human being is a highly complex, entirely unique combination of DNA, environmental exposures, dietary habits, stress levels, all of it.
Meaning the standard protocol might cure one person, cause severe side effects in another, and do absolutely nothing for a third.
Exactly, simply because their underlying biology is different.
And that is the exact problem this technology is solving. The AI is analyzing all those genetic factors, environmental influences, and lifestyle choices to propose highly tailored healthcare strategies.
It takes the variables of your specific genetic and environmental footprint and maps a customized treatment directly to you.
Just for you.
Yeah, and doing that requires synthesizing a volume of data that a human physician couldn't process in a single lifetime, let alone a standard 15-minute consultation window.
It is incredible to imagine walking into a clinic and knowing the treatment you receive for a condition might be fundamentally different from the treatment prescribed to the person in the very next room.
And it's entirely because an algorithm analyzed your unique biological makeup and calculated the optimal path forward.
So we've established that AI is masterful at reading the chaotic, invisible data streams inside the human body to predict what happens next.
Right.
But what happens when you take that exact same predictive engine and force it to read the chaotic, highly visible world outside?
That's the real pivot here.
Yeah, the same systems that are analyzing blood pressure are now being scaled up to analyze city traffic.
It is the ultimate test of the technology. Both environments, the human body, and an urban street grid, they demand the continuous processing of dynamic data to make predictive, split-second decisions that directly impact human safety.
Safety is the bottom line in both.
Exactly. And major automakers and tech giants are moving past the theoretical phase. They're achieving breakthroughs in self-driving cars that navigate complex urban environments with minimal human intervention.
Okay, I have to push back here, though.
Go for it.
In a hospital setting, the data the AI is crunching is cold, hard math, blood pressure, oxygen levels, genetic markers. Those are absolute values confined to a controlled environment.
True.
But driving a car relies heavily on human social cues. Like, when I pull up to a crosswalk, I make eye contact with the pedestrian waiting on the corner.
You do the little wave.
Right. We share a subtle nod, an acknowledgement that I see them and they know it's safe to walk. And AI doesn't make eye contact.
No, it certainly doesn't.
And what about a sudden pedestrian stepping out between parked cars in the pouring rain? Or a cyclist erratically swerving to avoid a pothole? That is chaotic, entirely unpredictable human behavior. How does a machine compensate for the total loss of human social intuition on the road?
That is the defining engineering challenge of our era. And answering it requires understanding how these vehicles actually perceive the world.
Okay.
They aren't trying to replicate human eye contact or social intuition. They are replacing it with just overwhelming sensory data.
Overwhelming how?
Well, the vehicle is covered in an advanced sensor array, specifically LiDAR, radar, and high-definition cameras. Unlike a standard camera that just captures a flat image, LiDAR fires millions of laser pulses every single second.
Millions every second.
Yeah, and it bounces them off the surrounding environment to build a real-time, three-dimensional topographical map of the street.
So it isn't just seeing a pedestrian the way a human does.
Yeah.
It is physically mapping their exact volume, density, and velocity in three-dimensional space.
Continuously.
Wow.
And the advanced machine learning algorithms are ingesting that fire hose of data from the LiDAR and the cameras. The AI is calculating the pedestrian's trajectory. It's measuring the slickness of the pavement from the rain.
Wait, it can tell how slick the pavement is.
Wow. Yes, through sensor feedback. It's tracking the speed of every surrounding vehicle and anticipating the cyclist's potential path around the pothole, all simultaneously.
That's insane.
It takes the chaos of human behavior, turns it into a highly complex, probabilistic math equation, and solves that equation thousands of times per second to make a safety decision.
So it's performing the exact same function as the hospital AI predicting the heart attack. But the vital signs it's monitoring are the physical movements of every single object outside the car.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the impact extends far beyond just allowing a commuter to read a book on the way to work.
Right, it's about commerce.
Yeah, the technology is driving the deployment of 24/7 autonomous delivery vehicles. We are seeing the piloting of ghost fleets, entire logistics networks operating around the clock.
Which completely rewires the global economy of shipping. I mean, a delivery fleet that doesn't need to sleep, doesn't require mandatory rest breaks.
No driver fatigue.
Exactly.
Hmm?
And it can dynamically optimize its routes based on real-time traffic patterns at 3 in the morning.
Mhm.
The efficiency gains are staggering. It promises significantly reduced delivery times and lower consumer costs because the supply chain never stops moving.
It is the ultimate optimization of the physical world. Goods moving silently through cities while the human population sleeps, orchestrated entirely by algorithms communicating with each other to maintain perfect flow and avoid collisions.
It sounds incredibly efficient,
Hmm.
but, it also highlights a massive underlying tension.
Oh, absolutely.
Handing over the wheel, whether it is the metaphorical steering wheel of our medical care, where an algorithm decides our bespoke cancer treatments, or the literal steering wheel of a 2-ton delivery vehicle navigating around pedestrians, it requires an absolute profound level of societal trust.
We have to believe it works.
Right. We are taking the human out of the loop in situations where human judgment was previously the only safety net we had.
Which forces a reckoning with how these systems are governed. Because when technological innovation drastically outpaces legislative frameworks, society is left extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, the laws just can't keep up.
Exactly. Recognizing this, the sources indicate that leading tech firms are actively convening to develop ethical AI deployment guidelines. The focus is structured around 3 specific pillars: transparency, fairness, and accountability.
So what does this all mean? I mean, those 3 pillars sound great in a press release.
They do sound very corporate.
Right. Transparency, fairness, accountability, they're massive, loaded buzzwords. How do they actually apply to a person interacting with these systems in their daily life?
Well, this raises an important question about structural integrity. These aren't just buzzwords. They are the necessary foundation for public trust. Let's make it tangible. Think about the black box problem.
Okay, but black box problem.
Imagine applying for a mortgage or applying for a job and you get rejected. The only explanation you receive is that the algorithm determined you were high risk or a poor fit. The computer simply says no.
And because the math is so incredibly complex, not even the people who work at the bank or the HR department can explain exactly why the computer said no.
Precisely. That lack of explanation is entirely unacceptable when we scale this technology up to life or death scenarios.
Yeah, you can't just say computer says no when a car crashes.
Exactly. So when these tech firms discuss transparency, they are talking about building systems where the AI is forced to show its math. If an autonomous vehicle is forced into a no-win scenario on a slick road,
Like it has to make a terrible choice.
right, say it has to choose between hitting a barrier, potentially injuring its passenger, or swerving into an oncoming lane, how is that choice programmed?
That's terrifying to think about.
It is, but when a crash inevitably happens, investigators need a transparent log of exactly how the algorithm weighed those variables. Accountability demands that we know who is responsible. Is it the programmer, the manufacturer, or the fleet operator?
And fairness is equally critical, especially when we bring this back to the hospital example.
Oh, definitely.
Because if the medical AI analyzes your genetic and environmental factors to suggest a tailored treatment, it's relying on historical medical data to make that match.
Always learning from the past.
Right. But if that AI was trained on historical data that severely underrepresented your specific demographic, the algorithm might make a biased recommendation.
It could deny you the most effective care, not out of malice, but simply because the historical data it learned from was flawed or incomplete.
Which is a huge problem.
And the scary part is, the bias becomes cloaked in the illusion of objective mathematical certainty. A doctor might look at the AI's recommendation and assume it's flawless because it came from a machine.
Which just perpetuates a historical inequality.
Exactly. Actively minimizing those biases before these systems are deployed at scale is a monumental task.
And while the tech firms are trying to audit their algorithms for fairness, there is an entirely different societal impact happening outside the laboratory.
The economic impact.
Yeah, the sheer economic reality of automation. We're talking about these 24/7 ghost fleets of autonomous delivery vehicles, revolutionizing logistics. That efficiency comes at a cost.
A very human cost.
It fundamentally alters or entirely eliminates a massive sector of jobs focused on driving, delivery, and supply chain management.
The displacement of the workforce is a severe risk highlighted in these digests. AI absolutely creates new opportunities, new industries, and new efficiencies. But the transition period can be economically devastating for specific roles.
You can't just ignore the people left behind.
Right. The experts involved in shaping these deployment guidelines insist that a dual approach is non-negotiable. It is not enough to simply let the technology run rampant, harvest the efficiency gains, and hope the labor market sorts itself out.
The dual approach meaning we have to actively intervene.
Yes.
The phrase used in the strategy discussions is upskilling and reskilling the workforce, taking the human whose job was just automated by the ghost fleet and giving them the tools to work alongside, manage, audit, or maintain those new systems.
It has to be a society-wide effort. Upskilling doesn't just mean teaching a truck driver how to write code.
Because not everyone wants to be a coder.
Exactly. It means training humans to do the things the AI cannot do. Complex problem solving, emotional intelligence in customer relations, and, crucial to our earlier point, ethical auditing of the algorithms themselves.
We need humans keeping the machines honest.
We do. The workforce cannot afford to be passive. Harnessing the potential of AI while mitigating the negative societal impacts requires active, aggressive preparation.
Yeah, you have to lean into it.
The only way to ensure that technological progress translates into broad societal benefits rather than just massive profits for a few tech firms is by investing heavily in the humans who are navigating this transition.
Man, we've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
Let's do a quick review of the journey we just took through the implications of these developments. We started at the human biological level. We looked at AI systems that are ingesting continuous, complex vital signs to predict medical crises, like sepsis, hours before a patient feels a single symptom.
Unprecedented prediction.
Yeah. And we explored how analyzing our unique genetic and environmental footprint is shifting the entire medical paradigm from generalized reactive care to highly proactive, personalized treatments.
And then, moving from the internal to the external, we examined how advanced sensor arrays, LiDAR, and high-definition cameras are turning the unpredictable chaos of urban traffic into solvable probabilistic math.
The math of the streets.
Right. This breakthrough in machine learning is enabling self-driving cars to navigate safely and paving the way for 24/7 automated logistics fleets, ghost fleets that promise to completely rewire the efficiency of the global supply chain.
And finally, we confronted the societal blueprint required to manage all this. Handing over control to these systems forces a critical need for transparency and accountability, solving that black box problem so we can actually audit why an AI made a life-or-death decision.
It's vital for trust.
Absolutely. And simultaneously, it requires a massive proactive commitment to upskilling the human workforce to prevent widespread economic displacement. To you listening right now, the most vital takeaway is that these developments are not speculative science fiction.
Not anymore.
Based on the innovations we unpacked today, this is the very real, very immediate trajectory of your personal health care, your daily commute, and your long-term job security.
Which leaves us with a lingering, provocative question to ponder long after we finish this discussion.
Oh, lay it on us.
While we are actively optimizing our entire world for maximum safety and maximum efficiency, we are willingly handing the driver's seat over to AI to avoid the tragedy of human error on our highways, to eliminate costly inefficiencies in our shipping routes, and to prevent tragic oversights in our hospital wards.
All good things on paper.
Right. But as we increasingly rely on machines to make all the complex, split-second, optimal choices for us, what happens to human intuition? If an algorithm always provides the absolute safest route, the perfectly optimized treatment, and the most efficient schedule, do we risk losing our tolerance for the messy, unpredictable, happy accidents that so often define the richness of the human experience?
Wow. That tension between a perfectly optimized system and a beautifully messy human life is definitely something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you next time as we continue to unpack the future.